Back into Talk with a Southern Accent with your host, John Rawl. It's time now on the show all about the South to welcome in our Toccopola storyteller. He is Jerry Short, and we've been having Jerry come on this show for a number of years. And at times in years past, Jerry's echoed a little bit about his experience of going across the entire country on the sports beat, as Jerry has been a correspondent for a Mississippi-based newspaper, and he has in the past gone on sports assignments to just about every SEC stadium and town and more. And we're going to utilize that great sports experience of Jerry Short to bring him on today on the Y'all Show and talk a little sports, and especially sports in the NIL world. Jerry Short, welcome back into the Y'all Show.
Well, how's it going, John? It's good to see you again after a nice holiday. I hope you had.
Yeah, I had a nice holiday. Of course, the official holiday being on a Monday, we weren't able to get with you, our Toccopola storyteller, last week, but we're going to make up for it here, making up for lost time on today's show. Hope you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready. I was babysitting this time last week.
Were you babysitting a human or a dog?
Babysitting 3 dogs, one inside and two inside and one outside.
And how did that work out for you?
Well, I'm a nervous wreck. And the house is in threads. But other than that, we're okay.
I think you and I talked midweek last week, and honestly, we love our pets. Dogs and cats can be wonderful additions to any family. But if you're not used to it, and if you haven't had one around, especially you getting 2 to handle there for a couple of days, it sounds like it can be a real change of life for you.
Inside, it was. As a matter of fact, and to keep them from going to the restroom at night, I slept with them.
No way.
For 7 consecutive nights.
And you're a married guy. Was your wife okay with that?
I moved to a middle bedroom. And then I tried the couch. And then I threw a small, not a king queen size or a regular mattress on the floor for the last night so I could stretch out. So I may can talk and I may not. I may bark a little. I'll try to keep you straight.
Well, I hope you at least got paid lots of money for your babysitting or dog sitting experience.
When you're doing it for your children, it's you get paid with love, and so that's the main thing. And they're having fun. They're on the beach and they're having fun, and I've got the dog. And my wife, if I can't cut her, boy, she really had to clean all day. She vacuumed and wiped and cleaned and mopped the floor, and oh mercy. And I've got a little woodwork damage for one scratched on the facing of the back door. So I've got to sand that down and repaint it. So other than that, everything's lovely.
Jerry, I know you did the best you could, and I know you were, as you said, kind of tied down on K9 patrol the last couple of days. You might have missed out on some of these breaking news items from the college football world, the college sports world too, because this affects more than just the pigskin. We have had in the last couple of weeks the passage of the NCAA of the NIL, name, image, and likeness. Essentially, if you're a college athlete, you can now profit off of your name, your image, your likeness, and a lot of these athletes are getting paid. And we got to get Jerry Short, a guy who's covered SEC football in the past. We got to get your take on what this thing means.
Hey, I've covered Michigan too, but my opinion would probably not agree. I probably wouldn't. A lot of people won't agree with me, but I think they should be student athletes, as they like to be called by the administration of most of these universities. And I don't know how you can be a student athlete and have an agent, which I think they're allowed. I know the Mississippi law allows you to, if you notify your athletic department administration 3 days in advance, you can get an agent to help you get some of these endorsements. So, and some of them are running into big money. And I just see lots of trouble down the road. And I hadn't done any studying on this recently, but I've thought about it for since the 50s. Because I sold Cokes in the stadium at Ole Miss and watched the so-called handshake as the players left after a game, and the rich alumni would shake old, not call any names, but shake some star's hand, and a lot would be left out. And he might put a 20 in somebody's hand, might put 100 in somebody. Now I know one of Ole Miss's most famous players denies that he ever got a penny, but I've seen a lot of handshakes on that gentleman. But anyway, I think it can only lead to more wealthy handshakes, and it's just a lot of things that we've got to dig into. I don't know. This day and time, America, everything's got to be done immediately. They could do this. They could have put limitations on this. I think the Supreme Court had to overrule another hearing in the lower court, and then immediately the NCAA went straight for this program. And Alabama, I believe, has already got 16 or 17 players. And that goes, I even noticed where they had and this is perfectly fine, but they had a wheelchair basketball player that got an endorsement. And I didn't even know they had such a sport there. That may be one of the some that they had added, or it may be like at some of these other colleges down south, Ole Miss and Mississippi State now. They have hockey teams that are kind of sponsored by some of the alumni and pay their way.
They're club sports, and they're not necessarily officially with the athletic department.
But they'll use the name. They'll call themselves Ole Miss playing Mississippi State. Now they may be playing in Toccopola or South Haven. I think Ole Miss's hockey arena is in South Haven, which is Memphis, and Mississippi State's is at Tupelo, I believe. So anyway, back to this other situation that we've got. They need to look deeper into all these things, because this is just an opinion, but I can see it just causing conflicts among each players individually. Everybody's not equal as an athlete, obviously, and there's always going to be one better. So does he get $25 an hour, and the other one gets $1? Does a different sport get less or more? Are they looking for that great athlete? And I noticed where some gymnastics girls, and I believe there's two softball ladies in California that are twins, maybe girls, and they're getting big. They're going to get big endorsements because they're on the internet so much, and they've got so many followers that whoever's wanting to endorse them is going to jump on that.
And they're at Fresno State, not exactly a powerhouse school.
No, I mean I didn't know who they were till I noticed that they were maybe in for $1 million, and then I think there's a gymnast somewhere that's in for $1 million, and 18-year-old person. I think you have to be 18. At one time I thought you could get it, but if you're 18 and still in high school, if you look at some great player, and I'm more familiar with this area. There's a real great player in New Orleans at Newman High School, and he had his daddy played there, his two uncles played there, and he's coming out of college this year. Everybody's wanting him.
Coming out of high school.
Quarterback. Out of high school. Everyone is wanting him. So the bidding will be on for him. Now, who can give more money? I've seen he's had it listed to Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss's biggest backer is probably FedEx or someone like that, maybe. Now, will FedEx offer him so much? Or Texas got a zillion all people, that can back out there. So what do you get? You get in a fight for that? Is everybody going to be satisfied with that? That's got to be a receiver for this quarterback. that it just got a $20 million deal maybe. Now, I don't know if they get to keep this money. You may know, you may have read into it. Do they get to keep the money up front, or is it delayed a year or two? How are they doing that, John?
I think it's the Wild West, Jerry. And I
Yeah.
assume that if you're a high school student in most states, if not every state, you can already be making money off your name, image, and likeness. So really, there's no amateurism left. And you can go on
No,
and make
no.
money. And in this case, you're talking about a Manning, Arch Manning, the
That's
youngster
what
out
I'm talking
of Newman High School in
Yeah.
the New Orleans area. This guy could make multi-millions of dollars before he ever sets foot on a college campus.
Right. He's got a granddaddy who was the highest paid pro player, Archie, when he played. He's got an uncle who, when he played, Peyton, who was the highest paid it was in the pros when he played. And he's got another uncle, Eli, who was the highest paid when he played. And you got 2 first-round draft picks and a second round in Archie. Now, that's sales. Well, they do commercials anyway.
Sure.
You know, they make big money doing commercials anyway as pros.
And
So
his
now
father is an example from this whole NIL too now being available to 18-year-olds because it was Cooper Manning who went to the University of Mississippi in what was supposed to be his freshman season that was diagnosed with something in his spine and he could no longer play football. So that's why he never played college football or went to the NFL.
That's right.
And so Arch
This is
Manning,
his son.
this is his son, and that's an example of somebody who, imagine if Arch Manning, or Cooper Manning rather, would have had the opportunity to make some kind of money back when he was 18 and then ended up never playing professional football. This gives kids a chance to start making money because they may never make money because they may never get to the professional level.
That's true, but the negative thing is, are you going to be an amateur or are you going to be a professional? Now, that's what has always drawn me to college athletics, which I'm not a big college sports fan anymore. And I probably covered for a newspaper 200 football games, and I probably covered 400 or 500 baseball games, and I probably covered 300 basketball games. And then I sold coats, and so I probably saw 300 or 400 total football games, college football games. I've seen about 5 or 6 teams from the Big Ten or more. I've seen everybody from the old Southwest. Seen everybody from the SEC, obviously. Seen 90% of the independents play. Been in their stadiums. Man, I've even been in the stadium at Wyoming, which is, at the time was like a high school stadium.
And you actually drove to Wyoming.
Well, I went through the Montana way and on up to Glacier and come back around. But I did drive, yeah, I did. And one year I covered 4 bowl games. And from the Liberty Bowl in Memphis to the All-American Bowl that Brett Favre played in, to the that was in Birmingham. Went on to Peach Bowl, and then went on down and saw Michigan really kick Ole Miss. And so, I've seen a few, and I've been around a lot of athletes and been around a lot of players. And, when I look back at how many athletes that I think would be a fitting person for this, I can go back to like a Deuce McAllister was at Ole Miss. Now, he was a really good guy, and maybe he deserved it, and I don't think the rest of the team would have been jealous. But it's going to be some jealousy in this thing. And I feel like you're either an amateur or you're not. I think you're getting paid plenty money to go to college. I've sent 2 to major colleges and fraternities and sororities, and it's cost a fortune, and they're getting there. Plus, they get tutors. Ole Miss has got the FedEx Academic Center, and they get a tutor, and they get time in there. They got weight room facilities. They get all their meals. They live off campus now since they did away with the on-campus athletic dorms because the Big Ten didn't want to have to build those. And they used to spend lots of money on that. Now, I know it's become a money sport. Football, obviously, is the number one moneymaker. at most universities. But what are these non-profit sports going to do when they have one athlete maybe that somebody wants and they offer them this big money? What are the other ones going to do? What are the kids going to do? Are they going to say, hey, if I work out a lot more, if I hit that weight room and stay out of that academic room, and I got a better shot at getting this money early, like as a sophomore or a junior max, can I go ahead and do that and not study? Don't worry about that. But you won't need the money from a job. If you can get money if you can sign a pro contract in anything, you don't have to worry about academics. And if we're going to call them student athletes, John, I think they should be student athletes. And I know that sounds old-fashioned to a lot of people that are probably listening to me, but that's exactly the way I believe. And I think I just see lots of problems.
Jerry, you just brought up one point. We're talking with Jerry Short, our Toccopola storyteller. You talked about teams going to bowl games, and there's not a single bowl out there in college football that doesn't have a payout of at least $1 million per team. Oftentimes, it's a lot more than that. So, Jerry, are we now at a point that these college players are going to profit themselves off of going to a bowl game?
Well, they do now. They give them X amount of money to go and travel. And, they'll turn them loose and they'll say, we'll meet at Jacksonville or wherever the bowl may be, New Orleans or Pasadena or whatever. But they got travel money and they got food money and they got everything else. And, And I'm sure if you got a really good player and he may just got the Heisman Trophy and you're playing in one of these top 6 games, hey, no telling what kind of endorsements you can draw. And what's the other bunch on that team going to think? I mean, are they going? I've seen teams lay down. I've seen players lay down. I've stood on the sideline and seen them lay down. And it becomes a mental thing, and it's obvious. I've been real obvious to me when a team may get down and behind a little bit. Hey, the other 9, 10 will lay down sometimes. And sometimes all of them will lay down if they get down. And I remember the first time I ever saw that, I like to faint because in the old days, when you didn't have all this stuff except that handshake, you knew just about where every player on that team was going to graduate. And you knew almost what high school they played in. And then later on, you knew that they became a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, or something in life, and you run across them or a big businessman that they was able to do on their own. And they got it out of school. And just about, it wasn't like a few. I mean, if you had, if you could sign back in the old days, you could get 100 players. And now I think it's 25 a year, but you can't have but like 80 something on scholarship at a time. So what you do, you got those other players that I'd say if you got 84, I would say in the old days, and I hate to keep bringing up old days, but in the old days.
That's what we got you on here for. You're the storyteller.
But in the old days, hey, they'd go in a Chevrolet place or a car dealership and shake hands with a guy that was a right guard on the Ole Miss Cotton Bowl team in '56, and he owns a car dealership today. Or there's one of Archie's receivers, Mac Hike, biggest car dealer in the world, out of Houston, Texas, because he played for the Oilers a little bit later. But they all amounted to something, is what I'm kind of getting at, And they got a good degree, and they got money to go to college. They got fed. Look, I've been on recruiting trips, and I've been in the dorms with them. Especially at Mississippi State, had the best ice cream in the world. But eat at the training table with them, and hey, you'd think you was in hog heaven. Now I know this is a different day and a different time, and they go out and they eat a lot of we talked one day, I think, about me doing some DoorDash, and I saw some athletes, and they'll call for McDonald's and stuff like that, you know. So it's a different world. They don't have a training table anymore, but they've got one if they want to use it. They have one, but they don't have to use it.
Yeah.
And it usually stays open most of the day. So, and they have good food, and they don't have to pay. But I've been in them, and they didn't pay, and I did. But there again, I just feel like a student athlete is a student athlete, and a pro person is a professional, and there's a difference. And I think that's what makes the game. But it's a new day and a new time, and a lot of people aren't like me. They don't get turned off by knowing that those people are playing not for the love of the game as much as for the profit of the game that they individually can pocket.
Yeah.
And I'm not pointing a finger at any individual at all, but that's human nature. And I'd probably do the same thing. I mean, I'd be licking my chops right now if I was being recruited by somebody and I was just getting ready to turn 18. And hey, I knew I was that I had a great high school career. I can look back and I know one high school player that was an All-American that ended up going to Oklahoma, and he was from Mississippi, and he went to Oklahoma, and he comes back here, and he quit out there. They found out that they'd give him a few things, and he had a car and he had stuff like that, and he came back and he went to Mississippi Southern. Then he signed with one of those, they have those franchises and different like World Football Leagues or
you're talking about Marcus Dupree is who you're talking about.
Who?
Marcus Dupree.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Out of Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Yeah, and he goes on down there
to New Orleans for the Breakers.
To the Breakers, and gets hurt. And then, and I can tell you another one that had turf toe that played for Ole Miss, and he was the number one recruit running back in the country. And he ended up playing. He played for Coach Brewer 1 year, and he did really good. He got a contract with the Los Angeles team. And later, when I'm buying timber, going in a sawmill in a town in central North Mississippi, he's living in a government apartment complex. So, it don't always work out.
No, but this NIL is definitely going to change the way things are handled. And Jerry, of course, with his own thoughts on that, definitely someone who's been in on the inside of a lot of this college football stuff through the decades. It's a whole new game. And Jerry Short, we had you on here today to talk to us about your thoughts on this thing, something that we knew you'd know a lot about. Jerry, I think you know a lot about the next topic that we're going to bring you on after the break and have a discussion. I'm going to leave you a cliffhanger as we go to break, but I'll guarantee you know a little bit about this subject, and we're going to get you to weigh in on it as the Y'all Show, our time with the Toccopola Storyteller, continues right after this break. And we're back on Y'all Talk with a Southern accent. John Rawl getting you through this start of the week edition of the show that is all things Southern. Our Toccopola Storyteller, Jerry Short, is on with us, and we're having a great discussion, as we always do when we have him on. And earlier, if you missed it, he talked all about the new NIL, name, image, and likeness rules that are now in effect for NCAA athletes. Jerry, I'm having you on now to talk about something else that I know you know a fair amount about, and that is, are you ready for it?
I'm trying to think what it might be, but I'm ready. Throw it.
I'm going to have you talk to us about aging.
Oh, my gosh. What are you doing? Hit my number one topic subject. I should know more about than anything I know.
And I'm having you talk about growing old because I think you've done it pretty well. And the reason I'm having you on is I want to get your thoughts. And it's not about what you've done, it's what you haven't done, but also kind of weigh in on people of your same age bracket, etc. Jerry, what is your thoughts on plastic surgery?
Oh, my gosh.
Because I don't think you've had any done yourself, and if you have...
No, I mean, I wouldn't even put a tattoo on myself. But, no, I hadn't had any of that done. I've had big cancer cut across my forehead.
Well, that's
and,
not the same.
you
I'm
know,
talking about
something
people
like
that do plastic surgery for cosmetic
Well,
improvement.
I know one, and the lady is deceased, but she was a beautiful woman. She was Miss America.
Literally?
And, yeah, she went to Ole Miss. She was it was a 1959 Miss America, Mary Ann Mobley. And she did some movies. She did 2 movies with Elvis Presley. And she married Gary Collins. And she died not too awful long ago, a couple of years down. I think she was in Biloxi. That's where they buried her and Gary Collins both. But anyway, she was Miss America, and a really beautiful girl. And I saw her at they did a thing that I covered. I do a lot of freebies, John.
Yeah.
I covered a thing called Mississippi Rising after the Hurricane Katrina.
I was covering that too. I saw you there.
You did see me good, and well, Mary Ann was there also, and Mary Ann, I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we had a meeting about the concert that I got to cover, and we had a speaker or two back there. One of them was the majority leader of the Senate, as a matter of fact, that I asked a question I think he's probably still mad at me about. But Mary Ann was back there, and I could see her face was getting really tight. You could tell, with as much money and as lucrative as she had been, her face was getting tight, and it was just almost just stretched. And sometimes you wonder, how can they do that? And how can they get them so tight and do it like that? Now, I think maybe if you started young doing it instead of waiting up to your 60, if you started maybe at 40 with a little bit in these crow tracks around your eyes,
Yeah.
things like that, a little bit along, it might be a good thing. I understand, if you're an actress or a model or something like that, it's probably okay. But for the average person, you might even end up getting a butcher to operate on you also.
Well, I'm asking you, Jerry, because I want to get your thoughts on plastic surgery. You're a guy, you're in your 70s. You're a good-looking septuagenarian, by the way.
Ooh,
but you have not,
you,
as a male, you haven't dove in and done any of the plastic surgery. And I'm really wanting your opinion on the fellow septuagenarians of yours who might be from the female side of things that might be considering a little work. As I like to tell people, when you look at plastic surgery as a possibility, you've got one of two options. When you get down the road, after you do it, let's say earlier in life, and those two options are only going to be one of the two. Are you going to look fake down the road after you have it done? Or by not doing it, are you going to look old? Which of the two would you rather have people weigh in on, whether you look fake or you look old?
Obviously, I'd rather grow old gracefully. And there's nothing wrong with growing old gracefully. I see people every day, and if we have a class reunion occasionally, they might say, hey, let's decide who is still the youngest looking person here. And of course, out of a class reunion, I don't think I've seen any plastic surgery, but some people grow old really gracefully. And so I wouldn't recommend plastic surgery to anybody because, sometimes it, just like you said earlier, hey, it can make you look fake. And some people won't even hardly recognize you. I've seen people that I hardly recognize and that I knew from some other business or something that had it done. I had a secretary at one time. I saw that had it done, and my eyes popped out, and I thought, goodness gracious, why did you do that? Just go ahead and grow old, graciously. But there's things that people just are so vain about, and a lot of people fit in that category. Now, obviously, it wouldn't do me any good to be vain because I hadn't had to be vain since I was a baby because there was nothing to be vain about. But for some people that look good, that might have been a homecoming queen or they might have been a Miss America, or they might have been something of that nature, and they just can't take getting old. So they go, they go have plastic surgery, and I think plastic surgery can do more damage than it can do good, because
Yeah.
as a person of my age, I'm 75. I'd a lot rather look at a person my age that I recognize. Everybody's going to be a little bit, not everybody, a lot of people are going to be like me and have gained a lot of weight, and they'll look different that way. But I never have a problem with anybody, from the military to wherever I've been. If I'm called Sergeant Short or Coach Short or whatever they want to call me, I'll run into somebody I may not have seen in 40 years, and they'll say, Sergeant Short. And I'll think, that's not going to recognize me.
Jerry,
And,
you're leaving out the best example. You ran into somebody just a few weeks ago who had not seen you in 65 years and recognized you.
That's true. And he recognized me right off. And I'd loaned him a car is that the one you're talking about? I'd loaned him a car one time when his wife was sick.
No, this is somebody from your Como days.
Oh, that's true. Now, I did run into some Como people at a wedding, and I caught the name, and then we talked, and they recognized me. Oh, yeah. They said the words they said, and if I remember them correctly, they said, we recognize that smile. Wait, where it is. We recognize that smile because it's the same smile you had when you was in the first and second grade.
Golly.
Now, in this school, first and second grade was the one so, I probably had a lot of smiling to do.
Yes, you did. If you had plastic surgery out there, we hope. If you had plastic surgery out there today, we hope you have enjoyed it. It was working out good for you. All we wanted to do is let someone like Jerry, who's, again, 75 years young, who's never had it himself, probably because he's too cheap to have it. But if you haven't had it yet and you're seriously thinking about it, maybe you should do the Jerry thing and just accept that you might have a couple of extra wrinkles or whatever, but you still look beautiful. Does that sound good, Jerry?
Just grow old and
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah. Sounds good to me, John. Walk up to me and say, hey, don't I know you? Yeah.
Jerry, we got to get out of here. Thank you again for coming on. We'll have more of the Y'all Show after this break. Stay tuned. We're coming back.